Hello, I'm Danny Duchamp. This is my shitty Honda Fit. Tonight is the 2nd of August, which means tomorrow is the 3rd of August, which means that tomorrow I'm going to be going and seeing Lauren Southern and Stefan Molyneux live in somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where just yet. Apparently we're not going to find out until tomorrow at 1 p.m, mere hours before the event. I've got my ticket, but we won't know the venue until very shortly before the event. Now, this isn't an issue for me, or anyone going to see the show most likely, because it's going to be somewhere in Auckland. It's fine. But for them, it does show how difficult they've found it to set up a show here in Auckland, New Zealand. Now, for those who don't know, Lauren Southern and Stefan Molyneux are essentially travelling to various Western countries, talking about promoting nationalism, basically. Promoting the idea that Western nations can have their own culture and identity and protect themselves via immigration laws from foreign cultures that may be incompatible with their own, from immigrating en masse and changing the makeup of theirs. That's the essential driving idea they've been putting forward. They've also been talking about political correctness and radical leftism and social justice warriors, etc. But the main thing has been that. Now, this has caused them some serious problems trying to go to various places around the world. Lauren Southern appears to have been completely banned from the UK, so well done UK on leading the world in Orwellian police states. And Australia, whilst she's been allowed to go there, and Stefan Molyneux also, they have had some kickback. It's resulted in some very entertaining TV news from Australia, so do check that out after you've finished here. But in New Zealand, they've had, essentially two problems. The first one was they were denied a visa. That apparently has been overturned because they're coming, so it must have been. The other thing, though, is they were denied a council venue. That hasn't been overturned. They were going to rent out the Bruce Mason Theatre, but because that is actually owned by the Auckland Council, our dear leader, Mayor of Auckland, Phil Goff, decided that apparently screw all of the Auckland taxpayers, Auckland residents who decided they wanted to go see these two speakers. Now he's going to decide for us what views we should be allowed to engage with. So well done there, Phil. You're really trying to go after England in that Orwellian police state competition. But in any case, they have managed to find, or at least seem to have found, a private venue. Not that we know what it is yet. Now, one of the main reasons for all of this kickback is sort of an air of hypocrisy that people they're detecting in Stefan and Lauren. They sort of say that, Lauren and Stefan are trying to advocate that Western countries stop foreign ideologies, most specifically Islam, let's be honest, from massively affecting Western cultures through mass immigration and high birth rates once they're here. And yet, they seem to be perfectly fine going around to other people's countries and promoting their ideas. So isn't that some hypocrisy? That's essentially the idea that I want to start off by dealing with here today. So obviously, I think that it isn't. I think that there is a significant difference between free speech and the open marketplace of ideas, when an idea wins based on how many people it can convince. If Lauren Southern come here and speak, I'm fine with that. If an Islamic preacher comes and speaks here and tries to convert us all to Islam, fine with that. But that isn't the same thing as mass immigration. That when a foreign country sends a whole bunch of people to yours, and all of those people start having, frankly, much higher birth rates than the people in your country, and the ideas spread that way, those ideas have not been convincing to people. That is not the free and open marketplace of ideas, resulting in the best ideas winning. That is simply the people who have third world birth rates and first world medicine in a Western country like this, immigrating en masse and winning through sheer force of numbers. That is not the marketplace of ideas that I promote, and it is not the marketplace of ideas that Lauren Southern and Stefan Molyneux promote. So they're very different things. Now, I suppose in order to back that up, I should explain to you how I know that Islam is not simply winning by convincing people. The first thing we should look at would obviously be whether Islam actually gets any converts. And according to Pew Research, the gold standard of data, while there is little information on this topic, what there is suggests that there is no substantial net gain or loss in the number of Muslims through conversion globally. The number of people who become Muslims through conversion seems roughly equal to the number of Muslims who leave the faith. So if Islam isn't gaining or losing just through conversion, how are they gaining people? Well, the obvious two other answers would have to be immigration into places where there are no Muslims currently and high birth rates. And that's exactly what we see. Continuing with Pew Research, we see that Europe, just as a perfect example of a Western country where the Islamic population is growing, is experiencing that high growth due to the immigration and high birth rates. And these aren't moderate Muslims whose views are totally compatible with the West either. A poll in 2016 of British Muslims showed that 23% of them say they want Islamic Sharia law to replace British law in areas with large Muslim populations. 52% wanted homosexuality to be illegal. Only 34%, that's only a third, would contact the police if they believed someone close to them had become involved with jihadists. The final piece of the puzzle is how exactly these Muslim communities maintain this radicalism whilst living in a nice, safe Western country. And the answer is very simple. They don't integrate. They don't become part of the broader culture. They tend to move off into a specific part of the country and will turn it into an Islamic area.
Whitechapel in East London. A hardline vigilante group is trying to impose Sharia law on unsuspecting members of the public.
Muslim area, okay? Alcohol, bad. This is a Muslim area.
It's not just drinkers being targeted.
Yeah, you're gay, mate. Get out of here, mate. Get out of here, you fag.
And women wearing skirts above the knee are also being harassed.
Cannot dress like that in Muslim area.
Those sorts of Islamic communities where they're completely shut off and complete no-go zones for anyone who isn't Muslim are becoming more and more common throughout Europe. And they're actually starting to pop up in Australia as well. Lauren Southern herself went to visit one of these communities and was horrified enough to find that the police were helping to enforce it.
The local community walk around here without any fear. I walk around here without any fear.
Right, but I'm a critic of Islam.
Yes.
So I can't be in this multicultural because my culture is allowed to have free speech and
okay,
criticizes
I understand
Islam.
you have your own beliefs and you're allowed to have your own beliefs. I have no issue with that. I'm asking you not to attend down there because I have a fear that you may cause an imminent breach of the peace. In doing so, you may commit an offence.
Am I allowed to walk through the area?
I'm asking you not to go down the Haldon Street.
You're asking me, but do I have the legal right to walk down this area?
At this point in time, no.
I know you're walking away, but I would like to do some interviews. Would I be allowed to do interviews?
No, you're not welcome in there.
No, I'm not. No, just to do interviews on the street. Am I allowed to?
No.
Why not?
Because I'm asking you not to.
Would I be allowed? Okay, no cameras, nothing. Would I be allowed to talk to people and criticize Islam?
No.
Why?
Because I'm telling you, no, you're committing an offence. Why do you need to do it here?
Because this is a highly Islamic area.
What questions do you intend asking?
Could I not talk to people and criticize Islam?
Question? Why do you want to? Why do you want to criticise Islam? Like I said, if you're inside, I have fear that you're going to cause a breach of the peace.
No, you fear people will be offended by me.
No, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
And you're committing a breach of the peace. I've given you that warning. And if you do that, you may be breaking the law. Do you understand that?
Yep, I understand it. I perfectly understand. As far as I'm concerned, you have Sharia law here. As far as I'm concerned.
A lot of people are saying that Southern is exaggerating when she says that this area has Sharia law, but think about it for a second. Imagine if she had gone to a Christian area and asked critical questions about Christianity. Would that be a problem? Would she have ever in a million years had a police officer coming up to her and trying to stop her? No, of course not. But when it's a Muslim area, the police will actually stop you. What is the functional difference between that and Sharia law? Under Sharia law, you are punished by the law for criticizing Islam. That is literally the situation in this part of Australia right now. Full link to this video in the description. Look, I get that New Zealand hasn't had these same issues with its Islamic communities, at least not to the same extent, not by a long shot. But New Zealand's Muslim population is still below 1%. Maybe you think we'll be the exception. Maybe you think New Zealand will be the one country to do Islamic integration right.
but at the very least you should be willing to have the conversation about how Islam has behaved everywhere else that it's grown to a significant size.
Now, a lot of you who follow me might say, but Danny, you're a libertarian. How can you support the state controlling the borders? And two answers to that. The first one is that the libertarian position is not open borders, it's privatized borders. The government is already controlling the borders. We're just debating about how the borders should be administrated whilst the government controls them. But the second and more important response is that immigration is not merely traveling to a new location without affecting the property and life of the people there. When the government allows immigration, it's bringing in future voters. Maybe when they first arrive they can't vote, but enormous numbers of them will have a lot of kids, and then those kids sure can. And as we know, kids generally adopt the views of their parents, so the mass immigration thing is still an effective means of flooding a country with voters of a specific ideology. So long as we have a democracy, not to mention public property, but so long as we have a democracy, immigration is not just a benign action which affects no one when you just move in next door. No, immigration is a direct effect on you and your property via the ballot box. So that's why I want to go tomorrow and support Lauren Southern and Stefan Molyneux. I might be there to ask a couple of questions. Hopefully I'll see a couple of you there. Make sure you say hello, because, I don't know if you know how this works, but you can see me, I can't see you, so you'll have to recognize me. It's just how it works. But yeah, come along, and I believe there are still some tickets available just for general admission. The fancier ones seem to be sold out, but general admission, which I got as well, you can go and see Lauren and Stefan talk about this, because I think that we don't want to shut down this sort of discussion. We don't want to let people shut down this sort of discussion. This kind of talk is really important. These are the values and the cultures that are going to shape the future of our nations for generations to come. So I think it's important to have some impact as best we can on this debate, even if that's just being a face in the crowd and maybe a couple of questions at the mic. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. Go check out Lauren Southern and Stefan Molyneux in their hilarious Australian television interviews if you're not in Auckland. And if you are, I'll also leave a link to the show itself, so come along to that. See you.